Welcome back to The Explainer. Sometimes in football, the final score tells you basically nothing about the game you just watched. Well, today, we're diving into one of those matches. It's the classic story, possession versus pure, stubborn pragmatism.
All right, let's just jump straight into it. The first thing you see, and it's impossible to miss, is ball possession. I mean, look at this. Manchester City had the ball for a whopping 67% of the game. That's not just controlling the match, that's owning it. Sunderland, on the other hand, they barely got a touch.
And yet, this was the final score, 0-0, a total stalemate. So you've got to ask, right, how on earth do you have the ball that much and not score even one goal? What happened? Okay, let's dig in and find out.
So to really get to the bottom of this mystery, we've got to look at the evidence. Let's start by breaking down what the stats are telling us.
Okay, so at first glance, the story of City's dominance just keeps on going. They had 14 total shots to Sunderland's 8. I mean, that's almost double. So the picture seems pretty clear so far, doesn't it?
But this is where things get really interesting. This is where the whole story starts to change. Check this out. For all those extra shots City had, they only managed one more on target than Sunderland. Just one! So all that possession, all that pressure, it was leading to a bunch of long-range, hopeful shots, not real quality chances. They were just, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck.
And then you look at the passing. I mean, wow. Over 600 passes, 90% accuracy? That's just insane control. It shows they were running the show, setting the tempo completely. But it also hints at the bigger problem, right? They were passing the ball, but it was all in front of Sunderland's defense. It was like they were playing a beautiful game of keep away around a brick wall, but they just couldn't find a way through it.
Okay, so here's the thing. The stats tell us what happened, but they don't really tell us why. For that, we've got to go beyond the numbers and get into the real nitty-gritty, the tactics.
And this right here, this was Sunderland's secret weapon. It's a strategy called the low block, and the idea is pretty simple, actually. You don't bother trying to win the ball back way up the field. Instead, you let them have it in the harmless areas, and you pull your entire team back deep into your own half to build a fortress. You make the space in front of your own goal as tiny as possible.
Basically, Sunderland threw down a challenge. They said, go on then, you can have the ball. We're going to put 10 men behind it and create an absolute traffic jam in our own penalty box. Try and break that down. They knew it would frustrate City's playmakers and force them to just shoot from way out.
And this chart, it just shows you how brilliantly they pulled it off. Yeah, they committed a few more fouls, they had to be aggressive to break up City's rhythm, but look at this. Not a single offside call against them. 0. That tells you their defensive line was a perfectly drilled machine. It was just a masterclass on how to frustrate a top team.
All right, let's wrap this up. What's the final verdict on this tactical game of chess?
For Manchester City, it's a clear story of what we call sterile domination. Yeah, they had complete control, they owned the ball, but they just lacked that killer instinct in the final third. They couldn't break down that deep defense. You could say their performance was a mile wide and an inch deep. All possession, no penetration.
Now for Sunderland, it was the complete opposite story, wasn't it? They basically gave up any hope of a consistent attack, all for the sake of being defensively perfect. They closed down all the space, they were incredibly disciplined, and you know what? It worked. They relied on counterattacks that didn't really come off, but their main job was done.
And I think this quote from the post-match analysis just hits the nail on the head. City won the game's shape, but lost to the defense. It's perfect, right? City got to play the game they wanted, but Sunderland won the only battle that actually mattered.
So, it leaves us with one of football's oldest debates, doesn't it? What really defines a successful performance? Is it having all the possession, or is it getting the result? This game is just a perfect reminder that in football, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and more than one way to earn a point.